Come on, I know it's not just me. We all have this fascination, right, with mob stories. We love the drama, the true crime, the shady deals, the mass corruption.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Why do you do this to me?
Because I'm the boss of this family. You forget.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
Tommy, no, you got it all wrong.
Oh, Anthony. He's a big boy. He knows what he said. What'd you say?
You're right.
Funny how? What?
Just, you know, you're funny.
This got me thinking. All the scandals in D.C., they seem to come from some of the same shady deals. Mass corruption schemes, peddling political influence, mob tactics. It's hard to tell the difference sometimes between how the Dems run D.C. and how the mob would run it. The mob's all about control. They leverage fear of retaliation against anyone who doesn't play by their rules. They don't care about your rules. And for the mob, it's always about the money.
That's $20,000 for you to not do the hit. Take the money, keep your mouth shut about what you just heard. It's best you're not involved. Take the money.
You don't want to go woke, comply with the woke agenda? It's all right, you're canceled. You won't get the jab? Well, you're a conspiracy theorist, and you may lose your job too, wink and a nod, right? Be ashamed you lost your job. Dare to look into potential corruption? Well, we'll just weaponize the DOJ and FBI against you. Could be knocking on your door. Sound a little bit familiar? Another mob tactic is operating in the shadows and waiting for just the right time to act. The Obama administration, they were masters at patiently waiting for the right political opportunity. Listen, you don't have to take my word for it. Here's his former chief of staff just admitting it.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
Using leverage to advantage your position? Sounds like what Joe Biden's up to, milking the pandemic and the crisis for all the power he can get together. Listen very closely here to what Biden says when asked about ending the COVID emergency.
What's behind your decision to end the COVID emergency? Well, emergency or ending the Supreme Court entry. We extended from May the 15th to make sure you get everything done. They don't even hide it. Get everything done. They're making sure the crisis doesn't go to waste, like they said. Of course, there's always those who do whatever they need to stay in favor with the mob, too. You know, the useful idiots. They follow every rule. They don't ask any questions as long as the mob tells them to shut up.
This has been a long time coming. I wish you could see the smiles on the faces of my audience. And I wish I could too, because they're still wearing masks. The end is near.
Shut up, just do what they tell you. Act like the useful idiots. So is that the Democrats or the mob? Know what else the mob does? It puts a target on the back of anyone who dares stand up to them. Remember when parents dared to speak out against CRT in their kids' schools? Oh, that didn't end well. Biden's DOJ weaponized the label and called those parents, remember this? Domestic terrorists. How dare you stand up to the mob? The cojones on y'all. Your kids in schools and everything. Keep your mouth shut. The best example of this, however, is probably former President Trump. He went after everything the ruling class stood for, and the Democrats did everything in their power to kick him out of office if they could. This is a classic. You ever see this? Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat, of course, bragging about the retaliation out loud. Check it out.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were moved?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them.
It's just, I mean, this is mob stuff. Folks, the Democrats rule this country using fear, coercion, and retaliation to push this destructive anti-American agenda and preserve their own power. But seriously, how would the mob do it any differently? Earlier, I spoke about this with Michael Francese, who worked inside the Colombo crime family. Here's what he had to say. Michael, thanks a lot for spending some time with us tonight. As someone who spent time actually inside the mob, you heard my monologue. The parallels are really eerie between the mob and how the Democrats are running the country.
Well, Dan, yeah, I want to thank you for at least speaking the truth here. You know, I've been following you for a long time, so I really appreciate it. You know, Dan, I spent over 20 years in that life. My dad was the underboss of the Colombo family. I was a cop regime. And I've never seen, you know, the government act more mob-like than I'm witnessing now in these past couple of years. And, the patron saint of the mafia was Machiavelli. And Machiavelli had an ideology. He said, you know, when he was advising his prince how to maintain control of his kingdom, he said, you can lie, you can steal, you can cheat. He said, you can even murder to maintain control. However, to the outside world, you must always appear to be upright, honest, and have integrity. And that's our government. That's how the mob acted. We tried to, you know, put on a good face to the outside world, but it was all about maintaining power and control. And I think it's obvious, you know, over these past couple of years that that's what this government is acting like. And it's scary. You know, Dan, I have so many people that say to me, you know, they say the mob should be running the country. And I said, no, the mob is not supposed to be running the country. We didn't do things for the benefit of the people that we were extorting and making money off of. And, you know, what I'm seeing now with the government, I'm telling you, Dan, it's frightening. It really is.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I mean, it's incredible that you've seen both sides of this and you're willing to speak out, and I thank you for it. But one of the things that broke up the mob during my time in New York City as a cop and a federal agent was sunlight on what they were doing downtown in New York. Rudy Giuliani was involved in that. As someone, again, who's seen both sides of this and is frustrated with where our government is going, that's got to be the tactic here to get our government back to a constitutional republic too, Michael, is sunlight on it. And if they're not going to be held legally responsible, at least make them politically responsible and vote these people out of office.
Exactly. It's all about accountability. You know, back in the day, we knew that the FBI sometimes would, you know, go outside of the law to come after us. And, you know, I guess, well, we were criminals. Maybe you can understand that a little bit. But I say this, Dan, whenever you give the government an inch, they'll never give it back, number one, and they'll start to use it in a way that they shouldn't. And what the FBI is doing now with the Twitter files, and they're overstepping their bounds. They're acting as another arm of the people in power. And I don't think people understand how frightening this is when you give the government, you know, the leeway to come after. In other words, they're not supposed to break the law to go after the criminals. They're not supposed to break the law, you know, in what they're doing. And I'm seeing that. I just don't know how, you know, people are getting away with this.
Yeah, I know, Michael. Listen, it is. It's really disappointing, and I'm afraid of my own government that I swore to protect and defend, and it's really horrifying. Michael, I got to run. Michael Francis, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for speaking out. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Dan. Thank you.
From under